The balance continues. Back to the Michigan State perspective, amongst other things this week, as we sit down with an interview with former Michigan State quarterback Brian Lewerke. He is the co-host of the You Are the Program podcast. A lot of alliteration there. I want to make sure that I get that right. He's been making the rounds on podcasts. Saw him on a friend of the program, Matt Sheehan's show recently. So we decided to basically rip him off and go out and no, he's been doing a lot of podcasts. That's not really fair. But really looking forward to talking to him. He was a key piece of the D'Antonio era, obviously 3-year starter, though he did start, some games, I believe, in his freshman season as well. Played a little bit of time on practice squads in the NFL, and I do want to talk a little bit about that with him, just because I find those kind of fringe NFL guys, they probably have some really good stories. So I'm excited to ask about that. Yeah, before we get into that interview, though, just want to get these show notes out of the way. You can follow me on Twitter at Castellani2014. We're on TikTok and ever growing on there as well. If you're watching on YouTube, you can hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let's get those watch hours up. And we're available in audio form on Apple Podcasts. We are available in audio form on Spotify. So check us out on all of those platforms. And if you're watching on YouTube, linked down below is Brian's Twitter and the link to the Twitter link to his podcast as well. Want to make sure to promote what our guests are up to as well. And lastly, but not leastly, CastellaniContent.com, a wonderful site that's getting updated every single day with the content that Austin and I create. We keep grinding, whether it's episodes of I'll Say This, Chris and Company, the archive of Tiger video, Lions videos, Michigan videos. It is all there. And I look forward to you guys continuing to consume it all. So thank you guys very much. I think that's enough for the pleasantries. Let's jump to our interview with Brian Lewerke. Former Michigan State quarterback, current co-host of the You Are the Program podcast, Brian Lewerke, joining the show. First-time guest, perfect time of the year for this as Michigan State continues their rollout here in year 2 of the Jonathan Smith era. And we have one of the key components of the Mark D'Antonio era with us today. Brian, what's up, man? How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I appreciate you having me on the podcast. I always love talking Michigan State football and pretty much any college football in general. So it's great to be on.
Yeah, and that is actually where I wanted to start, just because this week my Twitter feed blew up because I expressed some discontent with the 11 p.m. start time for the USC Michigan State game, and I saw your podcast, at least your podcast Twitter account, tweeted about it as well, and we're in lockstep about this. And my whole thing is, I've had to explain it. I understand why it is the way it is. Like, and for people who might not know, Michigan State and USC to kick off at 11 p.m. here on the East Coast. When I think probably the Saturday after this podcast is uploaded. I understand why. Like, I get it. I also think, as a fan and as a Big Ten traditionalist, just saying, yeah, but I think it's stupid is a completely valid criticism in this particular case. The one question I did want to ask you with it is, when you were a player, did you pay any attention to start times, or were there certain games that you'd look at and say, God, I hope we make that a night game. God, I hope we make that at a certain time, or did it really not matter?
It honestly didn't really matter. Night games are a little more fun as a player because you're obviously under the lights. You're probably on a prime time television network playing the game. We actually played an 11 p.m. game Eastern time at Arizona State my junior year.
19, yep. Right? Or 18. Yeah.
Yep. So we had a little taste of that. I remember getting back to East Lansing at because we fly back right after the game. It was I think 8:30, 9 a.m. in the morning on Sunday morning by the time we got back. So it's grueling on the body. As a fan, I guess it's fun. I'll be sitting on my couch at 2 a.m. watching the game. So it'll be interesting. But, I didn't really pay much mind to it. I was fine with whatever time they rolled out.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I'm an adult. I'll stay up for it. I'll watch just because it's college football Saturday. I'm going to watch it. But it's just in general, I've always loved the regionalized element of college football. There's things that are changing for the better. There's things that I think are kind of changing for the worse. And this is one of those things where it's so funny you bring that up. I completely forgot about the Arizona State game in 2018, where that was like at the time viewed as this very shocking, Michigan State going, cross country. And now it's like that it's going to happen 2 or 3 times a season, to some of these teams. Do you ever wish, and obviously you guys took the West Coast trip, but do you ever wish when you played that you were in this current conference climate, or do you not lament having to worry about going to Washington or USC or?
Yeah, I don't hate it, to be honest with you. I think it makes the conference more competitive and maybe a little more fun. You get to visit some other places. But as a player, talking strictly football wise, I would not have enjoyed going out to California for just a regular season game. Yeah. So I'm kind of glad it was still a little bit regionalized back when I was playing.
Yeah, and in fairness to D'Antonio in that era, there were, and obviously I brought up the Arizona State game, but you guys played Oregon in a home and home. Like you did some, not when you were there. I believe that was 14 and 15.
Yeah. That was right before I got there.
Yeah, but still, it just during that tenure that they went out to Cal, I think in his second season. So there was a little bit of traveling. But let's go back a little bit, just because I think that your time in the D'Antonio era was a very interesting time, and I think that it was a very topsy-turvy time because you guys experienced the highest of highs. Yep. You experienced some of the lowest of the lows, and it was often in back-to-back seasons. I mean, you have a tremendous year in 2017 going 10-3, right? A year that I think kind of slept on. I think that there's this, I always bring that up when people are like, well, after that college football playoff season, he really fell off. It's like, well, it was a 10-win year and a bowl game win and win against Michigan. Like they were pretty competitive. They were pretty competitive until the end. But I did want to ask, and I don't want to spend a ton of time on it because it probably brought back some bad memories, but I always have to ask when teams go through a rough season, and I ask journalists this, and I ask players this about, a campaign like that, where it's 3-9, you have high expectations, you're coming off the greatest 3-year run in the history of the program. And as a quarterback, especially, but just as a player in general, what's one lesson you learned during a 3-9 season that you simply cannot learn during a successful campaign?
One of the mantras Coach D used to say, then it sounds really negative, but he used to say this, it can always get worse. And that was so true in our 3-9 season after, all the stuff we went through off the field, on the field. He said it could always get worse. And you really learn about yourself. You learn about your teammates and the players in a 3-9 season, because it gets a lot harder to wake up at 5 a.m. for a workout in the off season, even during the season, when you're at week 7 and you're 1-6 or something like that. So it's not ideal, but you do learn a lot, and you get a little more mentally tough in those tough seasons.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where even if it doesn't register with you at the time, I would imagine just subconsciously, it's one of those things where maybe you're not gonna guarantee you're bringing your A+ game to every single practice. It's like I talk a ton of baseball stuff. Every year there's that average player that's traded to a new team and then just gets crazy hot when he goes to a good team. It's like, well, it's different culture, different environment. Yeah. Like you're playing for stuff now. It's easier to kind of get up in the morning. And I always ask people about this, but during a season like that, I feel like it's just so many stories, regardless of what's true and what isn't. So many stories are bound to come out about divisiveness in the locker room and or clubhouse, depending on the sport. And I had Jace Howard on last year, and I asked him about his dad's last season at Michigan. And because there were all these reports about it's toxic culture and guys aren't getting along. And I asked him, was it really that bad? He goes, no, we were just losing. It wasn't, it sucked to lose, but guys, generally speaking, the chemistry was fine. During that stretch, did you feel like the locker room was together, the results just weren't there, or did you feel like there was kind of some divisiveness during that stretch?
Yeah, I feel like 2016 was our worst year. We went 3-9, and I didn't feel like there was a ton of divisiveness. Maybe I was a little naive and young. I was still a redshirt freshman. When the season started, I was third on the depth chart, kind of climbed my way up by the end, but I wasn't kind of really in the weeds with that sort of thing. But I felt fine. I thought the locker room was great. People still were hanging out off the field, on the field. So I didn't see him, and winning masks everything. You could be having you could have a terrible locker room and you could be 10-2 and like no one would bat an eye because you're winning football games. So it all depends on, what's going on the field.
Yeah, it's always hilarious, the stories that later come out, even for teams that are really successful, and the narrative obviously becomes, close-knit group, everybody gets along, and then you'll hear years later of like, yeah, this guy was fighting with this guy, these guys didn't get along at all. It's like, I think it's just human nature. When things are going right, things are going to be more positive. When things are going wrong, things are going to be a little bit more negative. And we live in this age now. I wanted to ask you about this because you started third on the depth chart, but you were around the program, and I think really you were getting solid reps by the end of your freshman season, and
yeah.
We live in this age now, Bryce Underwood being the prime example of this, where not only are freshmen potentially getting paid a ton of money, but because of that, there's this expectation for guys to perform right away. And I've said on my other show a million times, like, you look at the history of college football, there's maybe 5 to 10 instances of a freshman QB coming in right away and just setting the world on fire. Like a Jameis or a Trevor Lawrence, guys that were in good positions and kind of took their programs to the next level. But in general, the struggles are there. If you could just talk about how difficult it is as a freshman to be expected to run any offense, let alone one that's, part of the Power 5 playing through the grind of a Big Ten schedule.
Yeah, it's so tough. And it depends, too, on kind of what high school system you ran. If you ran, like a gimmicky high school system and you get to college and you got this full playbook that's this big that you got to learn, that doesn't help. And I think with playing or with paying players now, there definitely isn't an expectation to perform. And I feel like it's like a double-edged sword. Like, it's a little unfair for the player.
I agree.
They're getting paid, and hopefully that money goes well into their future as well. But they are expected to play well, and you're kind of putting a lot of pressure on a kid that's still trying to figure it all out. He's off on his own in college for the first time, and he's trying to learn his teammates. He's trying to learn the culture there, and it can be like really tough to be able to handle all that. But if you're getting paid money, I'm kind of on the side. Like, you got to be able to perform, and even if you're going, if you're getting paid to do something, you kind of got to be a little bit more of an adult when it comes to that.
Yeah, I mean, you got to grow up fast. I mean, and as I've brought up a million times with Bryce, and really a ton of quarterbacks in this country, it's like that the microscope is going to be held up to you more than it ever has. I mean, people paying attention to how you react to things off the field, your leadership on the field. It's a completely different age. In your time, and I guess, okay, we'll transition here to 2017, where obviously you get, the reins are off. You start the year against Western with against Western was game 2, but against Bowling Green. The next week against Western with the long run. You guys go to Ann Arbor and win a week after, beating Iowa at home. During a year like that, where people kind of view it as something of a comeback season or a bounce back season, do you feel internally like things are just going better even before the results come? Or did you feel like the process was always there and the results just weren't?
That's a good question, because I felt like in 2017, we had a lot of close games. Like, my stats were okay. They weren't like fantastic in every game, and we would still win those games. I think it was a collection of guys that were really good on that team that we didn't think were as good as what they were back then. I mean, there's guys that played for 3 years from 2017, 18, 19 that were kind of first-year guys, ended up playing a lot. So it kind of all comes back to that and working your way up, I guess, and playing a little better throughout your career.
Yeah, and I mean, that team got, obviously, the Michigan was 7 at the time when you guys beat them in the Big House. You ended up winning 10 games, and that ended up being part of the kind of last stretch of D'Antonio's run. And it was a fascinating time, because I felt like, and it's almost the parallels between what you just brought up with the freshman quarterbacks, where because of the success that he had and the hype that he kind of built around the program, I think that there was this belief of, we want to see sustainability. We want to see 13 through 15 be something that is, continuous every year. And I think that wore on him a little bit, partially with recruiting being what it was, and some things that had, just kind of gone down in the program. But throughout 2019, he was very committed to not just that season, but pretty open about wanting to return. And it wasn't until, I think it was right before COVID, when he said, I'm retiring. During that season, A season in which, look, you guys you made a bowl game, you won your bowl game. It was by no means disastrous. Did you ever get the impression that maybe he was going to be on the way out?
I did not personally know. I thought I thought he was still gonna be there for at least a couple more years. I knew he was getting a little old. We had hit a couple milestones. His 100th game in 2017, and I think he became the winningest coach in 2019 in Michigan State history. So he kind of checked those boxes. I still didn't get a sense that he was going to be on his way out. I think it was just some other circumstances. To be completely honest, I don't know what happened with all that stuff, but I did not get a sense that he was leaving, though.
Yeah, we don't know. I don't, given his kind of privacy in the way that he is, I don't know if we'll really ever know. I generally think with this stuff, as we've seen with a lot of coaches in recent history, I don't think it's one particular thing. I think that it was pre-COVID, which dodged a bullet because that would have been a nightmare just to begin with, to have to deal with that. Yeah. But I think it's a combination of we were about to enter the NIL age. The portal was becoming more of a thing. The idea of kind of, not just recruiting players, but retaining players was something that was being pushed into the forefront. We saw some legendary coaches. I talked about it, last week with college basketball, where coaches just said, look, I like doing the job, but this is not really what I signed up for. I think it was kind of a culmination of all those things. And I think what D'Antonio did so well, there's a lot, but one of the big things that he embraced, that the fan base just loved, is very much the chip on the shoulder kind of underdog mentality. He thrived off that. I would love to ask him one time, did you ever enjoy being the favorite? Because I feel like it was just to his advantage and to the program's advantage to be the team that was the 7 to 10 point underdog in a lot of these big games. And the belief at the time was Michigan State, from the outside, it was Michigan State, good program, but might not have X, Y, and Z. They might not have the resources of in Ohio State. They might not have, all the way down to, different, the kind of locker rooms or facilities they have. When you're a player there, do you feel as a program like you guys had less than some of the quote unquote big boys in the league, or is that just not really something you pay attention to?
Not really. And even when I was taking visits in high school, I didn't take, Michigan State was the only school I took an official visit to. I visited, unofficially visit a couple other schools. But it was just something that, so I guess I didn't really get to see, all the fancy locker rooms. I think our facilities were, decent enough for a Big Ten school. Yeah. But I didn't, kind of look around and be thinking that we didn't have, great stuff. So I don't know if that played a factor into it or not, but I think it was fine. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think generally speaking, we have a tendency to over exaggerate that stuff. Michigan State's a major university. You're not living in a poorhouse. I think it's these clips go viral of Alabama with a swimming pool in their in their locker room and stuff, and people say oh man, well we're just behind. Well, everyone is they have the that's a top 1% of 1% program that they're a part of. So I'm going back to D'Antonio here just for a quick second, and I'm just very curious about this element of things. I always ask former players about this. I always ask former coaches about this. And I alluded to it a second ago with the ever-changing world of college sports. Because I think one of the things that D'Antonio and a lot of great college coaches do is he really pushed home pride in the program. And you come here, you stay here, you commit to this. Even before the results came, it's you guys can be the first ones to really get this thing off the mat. The first guys to kind of buy in. And I think he loved, the idea of I'm going to bring in a guy who's, maybe not the most sought after player, but he's going to play here for 4 years and he'll develop into something, win a Big Ten championship. We now kind of live in this age where if you're not getting playing time right away, you might just, take yourself to another program. Yeah. Do you think that if he was coaching in the modern age that he would have struggled to adapt to that kind of evolution? Or I guess let me rephrase that. Do you think he would have enjoyed it? Do you think that he would have wanted to kind of poach the portal the way that coaches have to nowadays, and monitor who's on the roster, who's happy, who's unhappy, who might be leaving? Or do you feel like maybe that's one of the reasons he left?
Yeah, I think I to be honest, I don't think he would have enjoyed it. His whole MO was finding that 3-star guy that's kind of being overlooked by the big schools, bringing him in. has a little chip on his shoulder, and developing that guy and making him into a first team, second team, all Big Ten guy. Like I came from Arizona, and I knew nothing about Michigan State. I knew nothing really about Big Ten football. But when I got there, I immediately fell in love with the school, and most of the reason was because of him and the way that he ran things. And I don't think he would have enjoyed the era of guys kind of just being able to bounce around whenever they want to.
Yeah, and even look, I mean, when you're a fan, you want your program to be successful, and nowadays that requires getting top tier talent and paying guys money. I do lament the fact that we're probably never going to have an age again in which a national champion is full of 3-4 year players that all came in together. It's just a much different world, and I think a lot of coaches became very, very frustrated with that, which I understand. We're now 2 coaches removed from D'Antonio, which time flies, man. I mean, it feels like he was just there. And I think it's a cool thing because whenever Michigan State football talks about where they want to be or where they can be, like that's the bar. It's the run that he had when he was the coach there, and saying, can we repeat this? Can we even go beyond this and become a team that's doing this consistently kind of year in and year out? What do you think is the one element of the D'Antonio era that, regardless of who is on the sidelines, has to be a part of the Michigan State football program? What's the one part of their identity that needs to stay, whether it's D'Antonio or somebody else coaching games?
I think it's just the pride in the school. And I feel like you can maybe say that about any college that people go to, but I feel like it was a little different at Michigan State. Like I sensed it was different when I took visits. Obviously, when I was there, I sensed that the Spartan dog mentality, just being a guy that, loves playing at Michigan State. And quite frankly, we were the underdog most times. And like you said, Coach D enjoyed being that. And he kind of made everyone in the entire football building enjoy being an underdog. So embracing that, I think, is big. I don't know if we're ever going to be that big flashy school that people are going to, look at, consider with the Alabamas and the Ohio States. But we can definitely be that team that is gritty and has that underdog mentality, and that was what Coach D did his entire time there, and I feel like that should be something that definitely stays.
I think a big part too, and it kind of goes along with what you were saying, is I believe Jonathan Smith is trying to return to this physicality. I mean, it's such an easy thing to go to, but like even with the expanded Big Ten and all that stuff, like these games are won in the trenches, and you guys, even that you're in a driving rain in Ann Arbor in 2017, and it's like, your defense is forcing turnovers, but you're able to at least establish some drives just with the ground game. You think about Langford there, who was like an automatic touchdown when they were, able to run the ball successfully. I think that, to get away from that identity really in the Big Ten in general, I think is difficult. And I think they're trying to return to that. And that kind of leads us to the current state of the program, where they're at. Obviously, J-Bat taking over as AD, Jonathan Smith in his second year. Have you had a chance to speak with or meet Jonathan Smith yet?
I've not. I went back last year for one game. It was for homecoming, or it was for Coach D's induction into the Hall of Fame. So there was a lot going on that weekend, so I wasn't able to. Hopefully, I'm actually going back for the Michigan game this year. So hopefully I'll be able to, maybe stop by the football building, say hi to them. But no, I've not met either of them yet.
Now that you're like a little bit, it's been a bit since you've played the game, especially at the college ranks. Do you find yourself having a tighter grip on quarterbacks when you evaluate them? Like, do you kind of, is it easy for you to go back and be like, oh, well, I remember when I played, I looked at things like that? Or do you try to kind of take it in as a fan the way that people like us do? Or is that competitive nature like never leave?
Yeah, I mean, I try to watch games as a fan, even when I'm watching like a random game, and I see this guy that Mateer at Oklahoma. I was watching him throw the ball. His throwing motion, it's a little unconventional with the sidearm, but he has such like a nice whip with his throw. Even Bryce Underwood, I feel like he has an incredible arm, and he has, the ability to put the ball wherever he needs to. I kind of fall in love with like quarterback play, and that's kind of who I root for. And I always evaluate and look at the guy and be like, all right, if this team has a good quarterback, and based off of what I'm looking at, I feel like they can, be the underdog and win a game that they shouldn't because of this guy and his ability.
Yeah, and that obviously kind of leads to the current what's going on with Michigan State right now. Aiden Childs, as of the time of this recording, played, I would say, in a lot of ways a breakout game against Boston College. I mean, the mobility was there. We knew about the arm strength. I think that just a big selling point for the program, as I kind of mentioned a minute ago, is I think the toughness is there. He's taken a lot of hits, which I think is in the long run something to be a bit concerned about. Not so much for him, just like, you got to protect your quarterback.
Yeah, I don't love
it. Yeah, but as a whole, I think through 2+ games, it feels like there's been a definite evolution from freshman year to sophomore year. What do you think, who do you think is more important to Michigan State's success in 2025? Is it simply Childs, or is it the offensive line's ability to protect him?
Oof, that's tough because I feel like both have improved since last year. I do think I'm going to say offensive lines. I think Aiden has the ability, and even if he isn't making otherworldly plays when he needs to, if the offensive line has the ability to protect him and then he can scramble when he needs to, I think that's really the key. And any team with a good offensive line is going to be competitive at least in any game. So I would say offensive line.
Yeah, and I would agree. And that's more showing the faith that I have in Child's development and the talent that he has. There's a ton of flash there. You can see it. You saw it in the Boston College game. But in general, in the sport of football, the goal, you got to sustain drives and you got to protect your quarterback. And I think that will fall more in line with the O-line and just making sure that they can run the ball consistently, which is something that they really weren't able to do, over the last several years. One thing I remember, and this is a part of your story that I don't know if you get asked about a ton, but you signed with the Patriots after Michigan State, and like that era, it was okay. Let me think about this now. I think it was the last year of Brady. Wait, no, it wasn't. It was the first year after Brady left, I think, because 19 was his last year. Last year at Michigan State. So you didn't get the Brady Belichick thing, but did you have any interaction or any funny stories about the small amount of time you had with Bill Belichick and the Patriots there? Yeah,
I only had 2 one-on-one interactions with Bill. One was on the field during a practice, and I think I got like a total like 3 reps the entirety of camp. It was right. COVID. There wasn't any preseason. They were trying to give guys a lot of reps, and I was the 4th string guy, so they weren't giving me a lot of reps. But Bill, one time, the play clock ran down. I was trying to get the play. We hadn't even left the huddle yet, and it was delay game. And he's MFing me and saying, "Lewerke, what are you doing, man? Look at the freaking clock." And then the second interaction was when he cut me. So I didn't talk with him a lot. But Cam Newton was the quarterback there. He was hilarious. He was a good time to be around. So I really enjoyed being around him.
It's a cool thing, and I always speculate like those are the guys who have the best stories, just because they're on the outside of it, kind of looking in. They're the ones who end up writing the books, as opposed and maybe as like the main characters of it all. Yeah. Belichick obviously has had this. I mean, it's been a bizarre offseason that has led to, with a lot of weird storylines, that has led to him in Chapel Hill, obviously coaching at North Carolina. And that brings me back to D'Antonio, just because one thing, the word that comes to mind, honestly, when I think of him is loyalty in so many ways, just because there was never any real smoke about him being in the running or taking other jobs during that time. And it was, and there were some big openings. I think it was right. Charlie Strong at Texas, I remember, was let go, and he was, there were possibilities. And even though it was kind of before the big run, like, Tressel gets fired from Ohio State, and, there's an opening there. Did you ever have fear in that locker room of him potentially being courted by other universities, or did it just always seem like he was 100% committed?
I never did. He was a guy that when he said something, he meant it. He didn't, I don't think, had any interest in going anywhere else. He was fine either retiring or getting fired or whatever. He loved Michigan State, and he did not want to go anywhere. And he was a very loyal guy. I remember in 2018, after I had a rough season, shoulder injury, we went 6-6 or whatever, 7-6, I don't know. But he calls me in like the spring of 2019. When we were back home for a little bit, and he was like, what's your plan? Like, are you thinking of transferring? Are you thinking of sticking around? Because if you stick around, you're the guy this year. We're going to ride you, and we want you to be our guy. And I'm like, yeah, coach, I didn't even consider transferring. I love Michigan State just as much as you do. I want to stay here. So he was very faithful to me, even, through my ups and downs. And I appreciate him a lot for that.
Yeah. And it was something that it's the same things happened in the basketball program with Izzo, though. There had been legitimate smoke with him potentially going to Cleveland in the past and stuff like that. But it's just like he reached a point of, he's just, I feel like once you get to that kind of like 9-10 year mark where it's like, dude, he's not going anywhere. Like this is he wants to be a part of this. He wants to continue to build this. He's here to stay. Do you, and it seems like you're in a really good place right now with the podcast and, breaking down the game. Do you still find yourself, do you miss playing football?
I do. It's not like where I'm like sad over here because I'm not playing football. It was a ton of fun. I feel like I used about every ounce of my ability in football and did it to the max. And when it was my time to call it, it was my time. And I was completely fine with that decision. But it would be great to play football. I've thought about getting into coaching, and maybe that's a decision down the road. But I miss it, but I'm not, hanging my head over it by any means.
Yeah. And you started, you had that little shoulder problem in 18, but, started a heavy majority of the games in your career. And, I remember you went out obviously with a win against Wake Forest in that game against, or it was Pinstripe Bowl, I believe.
Yes.
Final game. And even though this was 19, so this had been a thing, but this whole player sitting out what is perceived to be kind of meaningless bowl games is one of those things that I very much see both sides of the argument, which is like, and look, there's been Michigan. Jake Butt was in line to have a wonderful career, blows out his knee against Florida State. Like, I understand the player safety of it all. At the same time, I don't think that as a consumer, like you're, bad or like demeaning these people for wanting to see them play and go out the way that like, Tebow did in his last game, or take any kind of great college player who had the opportunity to play in one of those games. Where do you stand on it? Are you more pro player? Could you imagine, during the heart of D'Antonio's era, players doing something like that? Or do you think it's just simply just the way of the future?
Are you kind of asking what, like, if I would do that, or my view on it now?
It was just your view on it now. Like, yeah, do you feel like, you fall in line with the players of kind of saying like, okay, I understand the reasoning behind why they do it? Or do you feel like I don't want to go with the whole too soft argument, but do you feel like maybe we've gone so far in the other direction that people are kind of starting to lose a little bit of pride in the game that they play or the team they play for?
Yeah, I never really thought about it until now, but now that college guys are getting paid, that was the main reason they're sitting out, is so that they are able to make money in the future. If you're making money in college, I say play. I'm not going to hate on a guy for sitting out a bowl game when they're 6-6 and he's projected to go in the first round. I'm never going to be upset about it, but as a fan, I would love for them to play. But if they make that decision, I'm not going to be like that negative Nelly and throwing stones at them. Yeah,
and I get both sides, but I do think it is where the 12-team playoff is going to help a lot with that. Yeah. Where you're going to, really, that's probably 8 teams with players that would sit out bowl games under the old system. Yep. Quite frankly, now you're at a position where you find yourself playing potentially for a national championship. Like, you're going to get guys that are going to be a part of the program. What compelled you to start a podcast?
Dante and Rosano and Tyler Higbee are my 2 co-hosts. They did the podcast. I think they started in 2021. I was still with the Giants that year on their practice squad, and I was, I would listen to their podcast, and then I was let go, and I was kind of not doing much in the summer of 2022 and going into 2022 fall. And I think they asked me to be on the podcast, and I was like, yeah, sure, why not? Like, it's something to do. It keeps me engaged with Michigan State ball. It keeps me engaged with college football. So I decided to do it, and we've been doing it together now since 2022. So it's going great, and I enjoy talking Michigan State ball all the time.
When you were a player, did you have a desire to have some sort of future in media or podcasting?
No, not at all. I was not something I saw myself doing, but I do enjoy it. We're trying to get it a little bigger than what it is right now, but it is a lot of fun to do. Yeah.
Yeah, and it takes time to get that stuff off the ground, and having had to learn this with a lot of the teams I root for. You are kind of at the mercy of their success or failure. I mean, it's like I did Tiger videos for 7 years. We were bad for the first, like, there's just not, you know, your game seasons are over essentially by May, and it's just like, you know, but then nothing pops off, and then everything kind of pops off. It's a weird process. Exactly. And was there any win in your time that was more satisfying than the Michigan win in 17?
Probably not. I would say a close tie would be 2018 against Penn State, when we were at their place.
Yeah,
I threw a touchdown with about 20 seconds left to take the lead, I think by 4. That one was pretty close because Penn State was the loudest stadium I played in college, and I've never heard that place quieter after that touchdown. So that was great. But yes, I think that the Michigan game in 17 takes a cake.
Yeah, that was the Penn State one. That was the Felton Davis touchdown late in that game. Yeah, that was I think Trace McSorley. I think was still a quarterback there at the time for Penn State. You had James Franklin's number because 17. Mm-hmm. I would argue, and we'll see what he does with this year's team. That was probably his best team because that was the team that, I mean, they had won the Big Ten the year before. They had Saquon back, who was, I mean, what he is in the NFL, which is just a nuclear weapon. I mean, just unstoppable. And that was the game I remember watching that in my college room. That was the lightning delay game.
It was, 4 hours.
Yeah. So I guess, I'll ask about that, you know, because it's, you know, football delays are not like baseball delays where it's like it's built into kind of the fabric of the sport where you're we'll make it up tomorrow. You get a delay in football, like, what is the emotional reset like? Because you're prepped, you're ready to go, guys are fired up, you've given all the speeches. Oh, okay, now go back into the locker room here for a little bit. What's the emotional reaction in the locker room when you guys are kind of just sitting around waiting for the game to start again?
It's tough, and I think our kind of mentality is like, I mean, there's nothing we can do. The other team's doing the same thing we're doing right now too, so it's not like they're getting an advantage. We're both going to have to come out in the second half and start this game again with basically no momentum at all. And I remember when we came out, they called the game on a third down. It was like 3rd and 4. I'm surprised I remember this, but we came back out, ran a play, and I got hit as I threw it, and I slid across the Spartan helmet at the 50-yard line, and I just got absolutely drenched with water and dirt and all that. And I'm like, all right, great. This is the field's soaking wet. I'm back out here playing again, and now I'm drenched too. So it is tough, kind of getting that mental reset, but at the same time they got to do it too. So it's kind of play that game.
Yeah, I would say the biggest, and obviously you know it much better than I would, but like probably the biggest detriment is being the home team and knowing that there are going to be people that are going to leave after 4 hours. Like it's not going to be the same vibe as like a regular like noon or 3:30 kickoff. And I remember that when that final field goal went up and in, just like you could almost count the people that were just like that had moved up to the front row.
Yeah,
like, exactly. I get it, but it was kind of an interesting thing because it's just so rare that you see it. I know the Lansing / East Lansing area pretty well, so I think my listeners will as well. So I don't think we're going too inside.
Okay.
2 questions here. One, if you won a big home game, were you a let's go out and party guy, or was the kind of mental and physical toll like, bro, I'm staying in right now. Like I don't not tonight.
No, I think it didn't matter if the game ended at midnight or if it ended at 4 p.m. We were probably going to be going out that night.
Yeah. And what?
Yeah. We were. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say my next question was going to be, what's the first place you'd hit up then in EL?
Yeah, we went to Fieldhouse a lot, and that was kind of like the football hangout spot after a game, and we even have some of the parents that would come there as well. So that was a lot of fun. But Fieldhouse was definitely a spot.
Yeah. Last question here. Do you find yourself? Well, real quick. Who's your NFL team? Are you a Lions fan, or you're from Arizona, so is it?
Yeah, and I mean, see, I was born in Seattle. I moved to Arizona when I was 12, and then I obviously went to school in Michigan. Now I live in Philadelphia because my wife's from here. So I've kind of developed into a little bit of an Eagles fan. It's kind of tough to live in Center City, Philly, and not be rooting for the Eagles because this is like one of the best sports towns in the country. I think Philadelphia is awesome. So I am. I do like watching the Lions whenever they're playing. I root for them. But currently, I'm probably an Eagles fan, I would say.
Do you pay any extra attention to the teams that employed you for a time, or do you look at that more as just a business venture, so to speak?
No, I do. I mean, the Patriots not so much. I wasn't with them for too long, but the Giants I was with for an entire season as their practice squad guy. So I definitely follow them. And I was in the spring with Dayball and Joe Shane, who are with the Giants, that head coach and GM. So I do follow them a little bit, and I know some of the guys are still on the team, but not too much.
How close do you think it is to Jackson Dart time?
I would argue that he should be playing this week.
It's so, I don't want to do knee jerk over week one, but and look, the guy's had a wonderful career, but like Russ is it's not just back 9 for him, it's back like 3. Like he's not, it's just not, the mobility isn't there anymore. Yeah. The accuracy isn't there anymore. The only just the counter argument is there enough around Jackson Dart where you can put him in and not make it feel like you're just throwing him to the wolves? I would argue there's enough weapons in that offense for him to, be able to succeed. I don't know about the O-line, but there's always those week one reactions, and it was interesting to see how he rose up, draft boards as quickly as he did, and just kind of the excitement that's come from that. They had a good draft getting him and Scadaboo. Like, they're one of those teams that I don't think they're going to be very good, but they have the potential to be fun at least, which they haven't been really for a while.
They have a tough schedule too.
Brutal, man. No, that one, honestly, the Lions' road schedule this year, I think, is as tough as I've ever seen. I mean, their first 3 games, now one of them is at home against Chicago, but it's at Green Bay, home against Chicago, at Baltimore. The only other, but as a whole, there's in terms of schedules, the Giants one is brutal. Yeah. I mean, I think they have either home or road against the Saints. That's their easiest game. Besides that, there's about a 9-10 game stretch of just playoff teams or division winners. Like,
and the entire NFC East is good now too. Yeah. So it's not like it's a cakewalk there either. So
yeah, it's weird how that's it's weird how that's kind of fallen into place. The Commanders kind of finding it again and everything. So, yeah. Well, no, dude, this was really a lot of fun, man. I mean, it's been it's cool to kind of see you around. I mean, I say this all the time, but like we're roughly the same age. I mean, I was in college watching you in college, and now that I see people like that I watched, quote unquote, growing up in media, it's like, fuck, am I getting old? Like, this is weird.
That's me too.
Like that's the thing. Like, behind me, obviously, is the Trey Burke photo from the 2015 Michigan basketball, and it's like it slapped me in the face when I saw Nick Stauskas doing a color commentary for a game like on BTN. I'm like, dude, you played yesterday. Like, this isn't right. So look, it's really cool to see. Wishing you all the best, obviously, as you continue with the media journey and everything. Seems like you got a good thing going. And I honestly, we'd love to have you on again at some point. Of
course, let me know.
So I really appreciate it, bud.
Yeah, of course, man. This has been great. Let me know if you want everyone back on again. I'd love to. So
of course, thank you. Hey, man, he was good. He was good, and I could actually see him if he wants. And I don't know, what his stance on it is. But getting a lot more opportunities in media. He's a really well-spoken guy. I liked hearing him just kind of talk about the state of the program. No pun intended. Really laid back and even kind of off the air a little bit. We were just kind of shooting the shit a little bit. A nice, really, really nice guy. I honestly, because those teams beat my team so often that I do have a great amount of respect for that D'Antonio era and a lot of the guys that kind of came through. And I really think and maybe I'm overdoing it, but college sports have changed so much that even a guy like Lewerke, whose last year was 2019, it feels like a foreign age of college sports in many ways, an age that's kind of dying out. So I do like talking to guys who played in the pre-NIL, kind of craziness of the portal era. So very fun picking his brain. You can follow him on social media. We'll link to his Twitter and his podcast as well. That will do it for today's show. You can follow me on Twitter at Castellani2014. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let's get those watch hours up. I'm going to rewind here for a second because I forgot to mention TikTok. You can follow us on TikTok, trying to get to 10K by the end of the year. We are on pace to do it. Woo! Talking fast. If you want to find us in audio form, we are available on Apple Podcasts. We are available on Spotify. And of course, CastellaniContent.com is being updated every single day with the content that Austin and I create. Thank you so much to Austin Sisler, who is, guys, Look, man, you got to earn it here. You got to earn it here, and we got to continue to grow. But I can't express to you guys how often Austin and I are talking and how hard we're trying to make sure that we're hitting all the right notes, that we're pressing all the right buttons, that we're committed to cracking the algorithm. And it's not for lack of effort. We are trying, and hey, you know what? That effort doesn't guarantee you anything, but I want you guys to know. I want Austin to know as well. Like we're really working. And right now, I feel like that's the best we can do. So thank you guys so much for your continued support. I will talk to you all again real soon. Have a great rest of your week. Peace and happiness.